Greetings, this is the second time I'm doing this video. It was the first time I muted my microphone. Quite a lot of those moments in your life. So I want to do a video on what you need to know to mod for ground branch. So I'm assuming you can knock up a map in Unreal Editor. If not, see my other videos and then go see proper videos. But this time I want to focus on specific points I would like you to consider to make your life easier when modding is opened on ground branch. Modding is not yet opened. Official disclaimer. Shouldn't be too long, I hope now. And then there'll be all sorts you can get in there, new guns, camos, whatever, but I focus particularly on maps. Maps are fun and exciting and they make your life hell. So, to make, that is, not to play. To play is fun. To make them hell. I have a habit of digressing. I'm going to try and fight that, but the fight is gone in me today. I'm quite tired, so digression is the name of the game. I am not affiliated with the devs of Ground Branch. I am entirely, not affiliated, so what I'm saying is my own view. Most of what I'm saying could be wrong, usually it is. I'm trying to help, but I would recommend that you get the latest info before following any of my advice in this video. Generally that applies. Also, I would ignore everything I say and just walk away now. It's the best thing. Just walk away, close the video, go do something else. Right, if you're still here, so first step to modding for Ground Branch is to get the Unreal Engine, which is straightforward, is it not? You have the Unreal Engine is at version 4.25 at this time of clicking. I'm waiting for the Epic launcher to do its thing. I missed, didn't want that one, I wanted this one. I have only very good things to say about this launcher, and in no way would I criticise its user interface or usability or lack of basic stuff like letting you get a URL to share a store page of a game. That would be basic, but it's fine. They've got their reasons. We love Epic. So 4.25 now available. So you install 4.25, don't you? No, because you may want to mod for other games. You may want to use other games as a test base for your levels before you can put them into Ground Branch. That's what I've done with Squad, and may do with Insurgency Sandstorm. No, I won't do it. I can't say it, so I can't use it. Insurgency Sandstorm. Who knows what else? So I'm giving that a go to try and make sure I can get stuff into Ground Branch when the time comes. And in the process of making stuff for Squad and making some mutators for Sandstorm, not full maps, but I might do that soon, my life has been made hell in other new and exciting ways. And I'd like to hopefully stop you having your life made as hell, but you'll still be using the Unreal Engine, so there's a bit of hell. But not full-on damnation, just a bit of purgatory maybe. So, find out what version these games are on. So I think Squad's just moved to 4.23. The Possessed version, good luck to them. That's what they chose to do. Turns out it doesn't work so well for AMD, they've just discovered. Anyway, welcome to the former having problems with 4.23 club. Sandstorm, can't remember, it's fairly up to date, but you don't want to have the very latest version, probably because the engine is not backwards compatible by design. If you try and load something made in 4.25 into version 4.20, it won't load, even if it's the same shit. Even if it would work, it doesn't work. So best to make stuff in an earlier version. I use 4.20 just because there's nothing that's enticed me to upgrade yet. And that means I can migrate to any version of that and above. And so what is the workflow for modding? Well, if I was starting from scratch, I would do it differently, but because I'm doing this in advance, I'm making stuff in a regular Unreal project in the content directory as we would do for any other sort of game. I'm making my levels, everything's just dragged into there. When you mod for a game, you typically make a plugin, and you have to move all your stuff into a plugin, and that usually breaks a whole load of shit. And the second thing is that you have to package it up, and the stuff that the servers for the games come with typically is less than what you'd have in your standard Unreal Engine install. So you find first of all that dependencies break when you move things, and then they break again because the stuff wasn't there that you expect to be there. and I'll come to that soon. I'll try and be structured about this, but I'm going to ramble, so strap in, not on, whatever. Okay, so we've got the version of Unreal. What we do, we want to make a project. What kind of project? I don't know. I've made a blank project because I didn't know any better. When I do testing of my levels to sort of distribute them to people, new projects, what you want. I want to give people something you can walk around in and jump and have a little bit of first-person functionality. So I do my test projects. I make a project in first person and then I migrate everything into it, because when you migrate it only takes what you need. So I've got one project for all my maps, and in it is basically bloody everything. All the marketplace stuff I've used is in there, in a huge directory. I don't want to package that up every time I want to share a map. So what I do, and my daughter may be about to wake, geez, 29 degrees, that's hot, is slightly lost train of thought. So I make a new project with a first person. It's gone. Where's it gone? I make a first person project for each demo I want to make, and then I migrate. I might as well show you now. If I want to show off this map, which is Macedonia, don't come at me about the name, that's just the name of the map it's based on. I go to my maps directory, which is of course hard to find. I'll find the relevant map, and I basically go asset actions migrate. I'll save all that, sure. And what that then does is to find everything that it needs for that particular map. And I then, which is a lot, you know, ooh, that's about a gig and a half. No, 2.5 gig. If I click OK, I then find the project I've just made, which in this case would have been Macedonia Walkable, and I select the content directory, and then I go select folder, and then it will ask me this. I can clean it out or just yes to all, but if you clean it out you'll make sure you've got just the files you need and no more. So I would have cleaned that out and then it would just happen. And that then means, no it's not, then it means that I can then open that other project and package that, and it's got just the bare minimum of what I need. But all my basic map work is just in a common or garden empty project. Now I made the mistake of including the starter content because I was young and naive. Now I'm old and naive. And I used a lot of the materials. In fact, I used a lot of the textures. I got lazy. It's like, oh, they're the nice normal. I'll use that nice normal. But for whatever reason, you should assume that anything that uses starter content will not be present on any server, and it will not, for some reason, copy over. I guess it's a special kind of thing, so anything in starter content will be unlinked. You will not be able to use that, or if you do, it'll kind of fuck things up down the line. So I would like to go back in time, and if you want to use starter content stuff or engine stuff, just copy it into one of your own directories in your own content. I mean, confusingly, the starter content is in the content directory, but just assume that's just not going to work there. So I take a particular texture and I've made a starter content texture folder. So it's wasteful in that it's just a copy of the same stuff, but it also means I can independently control things so that this is another fairly hefty size texture, but I've log biased it to, oh, so it already was, hang on. So it's 1.3 meg as it is, because I've log biased it, but without that it's a 5 meg texture. So you take a copy of star stuff, you can put the log bias, which basically shrinks the size of the package, but it scales down the resolution. If you're going to distribute your maps as an add-on, you really have to be on top of the file sizes, and the stuff that comes off the marketplace you'll have to turn down from 4K textures to 1K or similar, or just be very picky in what you use. If you've got a set like I've got with lots of Victorian stuff for a house, which, you know, is pretty nice stuff, I've used some of it. That is a Victorian cupboard. That's a Victorian bath. It's a bit jarring next to my own toilet, which in fact was my own toilet before I moved. Looking much better there than in real life, I should add. But each one of these has its own little material, has its own textures. Different packs are built in different ways. Some have a single massive texture for everything, but this one has lots of little textures that are used every time you drag in a different mesh. So I don't want to go crazy and bring in all these chair types because each one will bring in a lot of memory. So be sparing in what you use and load bias down the textures to more reasonable sizes. Because when they're stored on disk full size, you can undo that anytime, but when they're packaged, they will package at the appropriate size so that you don't get huge textures. Quick word on where you get stuff from. Basically, the Epic Marketplace has a ton of free stuff that is all you'll ever need in itself. There's paid stuff. Be wary because you buy stuff and then it becomes free, and I hate that. Anyway, you can use places outside the marketplace like TurboSquid. This is a TurboSquid asset, I think, but it gets a bit iffy with people rip off stuff and it's hard to tell. And you'd have to do a lot of work to import stuff because there'll be no light maps, there'll be broken meshes, not closed meshes that won't work well with the lighting. There will be meshes that are for some reason a 20th of their size or 200th of their size. There will be, the materials will be a mess, the layers will be all split up. So advanced modding only, getting stuff from outside the marketplace because it's such a pain in the ass. But yes, so specifically for modding for Ground Branch, you're going to have to get your own stuff. You can't use the game assets because they don't exist in your editor because it's not the Ground Branch editor yet. When it's opened up, you can go through and pull out the Ground Branch assets, I'm sure. But yeah, for early adopters, you've got to get all this stuff, assemble it, make it. So these houses I've made, can you tell they look so good? This wall I made, can you tell it looks so good? But I reused marketplace textures and applied them to a wall, and it's nasty, but you know, could be nastier. These fences I've used with that's not starter content assets, but you know, I use a lot of starter content stuff because I can't be bothered. That might be a starter content concrete texture. I've made it my own. I mean, with all these things, you make it your own. Turn the game stuff on. That's TurboSquid. It's horrible, but it's the best I could do. Yeah, so you get your stuff. It's up to you to find your stuff. When modding is opened, I will go through and replace what materials I can with game materials. The reason being that I won't have to then distribute them with the mod pack, so the mod pack can shrink down to a more manageable size, is my hope. The landscape layers are a big hit on memory size, so it may be I'll take the plunge and use Ground Branch materials, but maybe it just won't work with the stuff I've got, the setup I've got. I use a lot of speed trees, but you pay for them. The grass is too bright because I switched to dynamic lighting. I digress. Okay, so things to work out for. So you've got a blank page with a new project. Where do you start with all this stuff? How do you scale it right? Well, here is the old forum. John ever so kindly put up some templates. He did a standing pose, crouch pose, and a door frame, which I think I have somewhere. I got the mesh, I got the person somewhere. So my file structure is terrible. Again, I didn't know any better. It works for me, but it's completely non-standard. So that is the reference character. So that is the player character. And you can manually measure it against doors, just as a sort of a sanity check. You know, would that look stupid? It's a little tight, to be honest, going through the door. But these doors are an approved size. So that link had door frames, but basically the minimum size is 2 meters tall, 1 meter wide. Just stick with that, and even better if you can go 2.1 and 1.1 would be better. Otherwise you have collision issues. And that is bigger than normal door sizes. Certainly for interior doors. In the UK it's about 0.7 something meters wide, which when you put it in game looks a bit silly, but if you're being realistic it's less than a meter, but for gameplay purposes make sure your doors are at least 1 by 2, but ideally 1.1 by 2.1. I have taken this stuff and run with it. I've got door blueprints I've made as placeholders where you can pick your size of frame and it'll show you appropriate sizes of doors and things. But let me just do that and cycle through those doors. So that's WYSI, isn't it? Oh, I might have to... Yeah, that's fine. So that was one point. And with starter content, just to go back to that, either don't use it, or if you're using it, copy it into your own directory. But overall, the scaling is the same as any other Unreal project where 1 unit is 1 centimetre. So 100 units would be a metre, so that's 100 units or so. So they tried to be metric, but they failed. But I guess there's some reason to do with the floating point accuracy. They chose it that way. And I think that's really the thing. So I've shown you how I would migrate stuff. There will be special glass blueprints, special door blueprints. I've only put the doors in so it gives you a bit of a feel for going to the buildings. I'm not putting glass in because why waste the effort? Another important design consideration is that Ground Branch is going fully dynamic lit because of reasons. Gives you a lot of freedom, and the engine made big improvements over the years to the dynamic system. The distance mesh distance fields, I should say, the ambient occlusion. There's a few tricks they've done in the last couple of years which mean that you get reasonably good results for dynamic lighting whilst being relatively efficient. So this is dynamically lit. It's not as nice as I could get with static lit. That's not nice. It takes a fair bit of tweaking. There's a few things to tweak. I can go into that another time. But that's good enough. It's good enough. And here we have rectangle lights at the windows, which again had to be tweaked. I've tweaked them to be no shadows. You don't notice that until you do. If I turn the shadows back on, yeah, that doesn't look right. Ideally, they would be having the ray trace distance field area shadows, basically soft shadows. So that would be better, but you get so many damn artifacts with that I've just turned that off for all of them, turned off the shadows. And that will also make it render quicker. So there's a little bit of light from the windows. Unshadowed means just goes nice and fast. Yeah, so dynamic lit, everything dynamic lit. The easiest way to make sure you're doing that is to turn your force no pre-computed lighting on, which means that whenever you build, it'll just not build any light maps. Or so goes the theory. Mine still is building light maps. I don't know why. And there are other things that will be clearer over time. But lights, windows, doors, I think John, the main guy in Ground Branch, he's doing a shootable light system. So I may put in something just as a placeholder so I can wire up light switches as well. I don't know how they're going to do it. That'll take a bit of work when modding's open. There'll be all kinds of stuff with the AI, ambush points, spawn points. I don't know how it's going to work. It's nothing I can simulate, so I'm not going to bother doing that yet. There'll be stuff like that to add. And the metadata will need to be added somewhere. So one of the main things is to bear in mind the structure of the Ground Branch projects, where you will typically click this is how we assume it's going to work, is you click a button to make a mod, it will create a plugin, and you put in the mod name and the file structure, whatever. And to get your map into there, the best way I've found is to migrate it from this general project into your Ground Branch project at the content level, the main directory, and then to load up the Ground Branch project, and from within there drag it from the content into your plugin. Don't migrate directly to your plugin because your dependencies will be broken. Because I don't know why they did it that way. It's dumb, but if you copy from the content to a plugin, it will be referenced to the content directory. They didn't make that update. Maybe that's fixed in a later version, I don't know. You may get broken stuff if you've referred to starter content or engine stuff. So I think there's a MacroVariation texture, which I think maybe it's startup, maybe it's engine, but any engine stuff you'll have to put in your own folders somewhere. There are some material functions, some actual built-in material functions, which I found were not present on squad dedicated servers, which was just annoying, but there you go. So you may have to work out why your thing's not packaging, and it may involve finding a built-in material function and then just copying it to your own files and then replacing the reference with the one in your own files, and then it all works. Took a long time to get to the bottom of that one. When you're debugging stuff, the reference viewer is your friend and also your enemy. But this shows you what's using the MacroVariation. That would be absolutely everything. I use that for sort of speckling the textures at a larger scale. But you can go to a particular asset and see what it refers to. And here you see a engine bit of code which is built in, but you never know, it might turn out to be needed. So you'll be surprised what you find there. Here's the textures, but that's all stuff on my own little bit of content, so that's fine. Yeah, so I think I'll cut it not short there. If I think of anything else, I'll add it as a comment or maybe at the end of this video. But for now, to summarise, to make maps for Ground Branch, you can start them now and you can get very far into the process and test them out. Let me just run my test. So there's a few things to do to get it into a first-person project. Okay, let me just bring up the one I just made. Okay, so here I am in the project I made specifically to showcase the Macedonia map, which is not finished, but I just wanted to do a speed test. The amount of stuff in here is greatly reduced compared to, well, not greatly, but reduced compared to my Blockbuster project with everything in it. A few extra things came with the first person project. To make this playable, go to Blueprints, find the first person character, drop it where I want to spawn. You can even turn it around to your desired location. There's a couple of things to tweak with it before it'll work. You need to go near the bottom. One thing is to auto-possess player 0, and that's the main thing. I also changed the size of the capsule to 45. I think that's fine, but let's say 80, because that will test the doors properly, because that will be 9.9 meters wide, I think. If it was 55, you'd be 1.1 meters wide, which will test the door frames too much. I actually made one of these earlier, and when you go play in a first person project, having dropped that character in, you can then control this, and it will trigger boxes, and the balls test the collision. So you'll need to also, I'll show you something about that in a second. So that lets you run around. You can actually then do things like apostrophe on my keyboard anyway, and then tab lets you ghost around, or you can do flying ghost commands, but this is the quickest way, and then tab to finish. And when you've got a standalone package version, you might have to use the console to type quit or restart level. So to summarise the summary, I do digress. There's no reason not to start making maps for Ground Branch. If you want to play them, you can either make your own demo to let people wander around testing collision, or you can do some extra work to put them into Squad, Sandstorm, or any other appropriate game. Which one of those would depend on the size of the map, the type of the map, and so on. And these things take so long to do anyway, you might as well get a head start. So it's possible to do it now. If you really want to get stuck in, I'd recommend you do that just to get the experience if you haven't done the mapping before. But it'll be a lot easier once modding's open just to drag and drop assets in, but at the same time making levels more than that, and there may be some horror show levels where people just did that. But yeah, so I hope that helps vaguely. As time goes on, we'll know more about the specific systems that are going to be used, and I'll do more videos on my experience of getting stuff into it when I'm able to. So good luck, have fun, and see you next time.